Welcome to the shadows, the haunted asylums of America. Hello, brave travelers, and welcome back to another spine-tingling journey through the world of the unknown. If you're new to our channel, allow me to introduce you to the realm we call home, a sanctuary for those who dare to delve into the dark corners of history, the whispers of forgotten legends, and the unsettling allure of places where the veil between worlds grows thin. Tonight, we're venturing into the depths of America's most haunted abandoned asylums, monuments to human suffering, scientific ambition, and the unexplainable. These are not just crumbling buildings overtaken by time, they are testaments to the darker chapters of medical history, where the line between treatment and torment blurred, and where the echoes of the past refuse to fade. Abandoned asylums have long captivated the imagination, don't they? They are the silent witnesses to humanity's attempts to understand the mind, often through methods that now seem barbaric. These institutions, once bustling with the hum of life and the cries of the afflicted, now stand empty, their walls steeped in the weight of countless stories of hope, despair, and the inexplicable. From the Gothic spires of Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum to the haunting corridors of Waverly Hills Sanatorium, these sites are steeped in history, tragedy, and the supernatural. They are places where the screams of the past still linger, where the air feels heavy with sorrow, and where the boundary between reality and the paranormal blurs. As we embark on this eerie expedition, prepare yourself for an unsettling ride. The asylums we'll explore are not merely settings for horror stories. They are portals to the past, where the line between science and superstition dissolves. Whether you're a seasoned thrill seeker or a curious newcomer to the world of the paranormal, this journey promises to send shivers down your spine and leave you questioning what lies beyond the veil of the ordinary. So, fasten your seatbelts, dim the lights, and brace yourself for the chilling stories of America's most haunted asylums. The darkness awaits, and the tales are just beginning. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, the Gothic horror of West Virginia. Nestled in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum stands as a towering testament to the darker side of 19th-century psychiatric care. Built in 1858, this sprawling Gothic revival structure was once the largest hand-cut stone building in the United States, designed to house thousands of patients suffering from mental illness. Its architect, Richard Snowden Andrews, envisioned a place of healing, where the mentally ill could find solace through the moral treatment philosophy of the era. However, the asylum's legacy is far from the utopia its creators imagined. A history of suffering and misery. From the moment it opened its doors in 1864, the asylum became synonymous with overcrowding, understaffing, and inhumane treatment. By the early 20th century, the facility was grossly over capacity, housing up to 3,000 patients in a building designed for 250. The overcrowding led to the widespread use of brutal and outdated treatment methods, including electroshock therapy, hydrotherapy, and even lobotomies. Patients were often locked in solitary confinement for weeks or months at a time, their cries of anguish echoing through the cavernous halls. Many believe the sheer scale of suffering that took place within these walls has left behind an indelible mark, trapping the spirits of the afflicted within its crumbling confines. The haunting of Room 10. One of the most infamous areas of the asylum is Room 10, a solitary confinement cell in the basement. This room, stripped of its original iron door and now sealed off to the public, is said to be the most haunted location in the entire facility. Visitors and paranormal investigators alike report an overwhelming sense of dread when standing near the room's entrance, as if something unseen is watching them. Some have described feeling sudden, unexplained chills or hearing faint whispers that seem to come from nowhere. Others have claimed to see shadowy figures darting through the corner of their vision, only to vanish when approached. The phantom footsteps and disembodied voices beyond Room 10. The asylum's sprawling corridors and staircases are rife with reports of phantom footsteps and disembodied voices. Many visitors claim to hear the sound of someone pacing the halls late at night, despite the building being empty. The voices, often faint and unintelligible, are said to range from soft murmurs to guttural screams, as if the asylum itself is reliving the torment of its past. The shadow man and the girl in the window. Perhaps the most frequently reported paranormal phenomena at Trans-Allegheny involve two distinct apparitions, the shadow man and the girl in the window. The Shadow Man, described as a tall, dark figure, has been seen lurking in the corners of the building or standing silently in the hallways. Witnesses claim he exudes an aura of malevolence, often vanishing when approached. The girl in the window, on the other hand, is said to appear in the asylum's east wing, where the windows overlook the surrounding woods. Visitors describe seeing a young girl with long, dark hair peering out, her face frozen in an expression of fear. When they attempt to approach, she disappears, leaving behind only the faint scent of lilac, a fragrance reportedly favored by a former nurse who lived and died on the premises. Paranormal investigations and unexplained phenomena. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum has become a magnet for paranormal investigators and thrill-seekers alike. The building, now privately owned, offers guided tours and overnight vigils for those brave enough to spend the night in its decaying halls. Many investigators have captured unexplained shadows, temperature fluctuations, and anomalous sounds on their equipment. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence involves a photograph taken in the basement, which appears to show the faint outline of a human figure standing in the shadows, though no one was present at the time. Whether the hauntings are the result of residual energy from the asylum's dark history or something far more sinister, one thing is certain: Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum remains a place where the past refuses to rest. Its towering walls and endless corridors serve as a reminder of the fragility of human ambition and the thin veil between the living and the dead. And for those who dare to explore its ruins, the echoes of suffering may never truly fade. Waverly Hills Sanatorium. The cries of the tuberculosis victims perched atop a hill in the quiet outskirts of Louisville, Kentucky. Waverly Hills Sanatorium is a haunting reminder of the tuberculosis epidemic that ravaged the United States in the early 20th century. Opened in 1926 as a state-of-the-art tuberculosis hospital, Waverly Hills was designed to provide fresh air and sunlight to patients suffering from the deadly disease. However, for many who entered its doors, Waverly Hills became a place of despair and death. Over the decades, the sanatorium gained a reputation for its high mortality rate and the tragic stories of the patients who perished within its walls. The death tunnel and the nurse's tragic end. One of the most infamous features of Waverly Hills is the death tunnel, a 500-foot underground passage used to discreetly transport deceased patients to the nearby train tracks, sparing the living from the sight of death. According to legend, the tunnel is haunted by the spirit of a nurse who allegedly committed suicide after being overwhelmed by the suffering of her patients. Visitors have reported hearing the faint sound of a woman sobbing near the tunnel's entrance, as well as the sensation of being physically pushed by an unseen force. Room 510. The nurse's eternal vigil. Another focal point of Waverly Hills' haunted reputation is Room 510, where the nurse is said to have taken her life. Guests staying in the room during overnight paranormal investigations have described feeling an overwhelming sense of despair, as if the nurse's grief is palpable. Some have even reported hearing her voice whispering their names or catching glimpses of a woman in white standing near the window, staring out into the night. The phantom children and the shadow man. Visitors and investigators have also reported encountering the spirits of children who died at the sanatorium. These apparitions are said to manifest as faint outlines of young boys and girls, playing and laughing in the empty hallways. One of the most chilling accounts involves a group of explorers who claim to hear the unmistakable sound of children's laughter echoing through the building, though no one else was present. Another frequently reported phenomenon is the Shadow Man, a tall, dark figure that appears in the peripheral vision of those who dare to explore the sanatorium's upper floors. Some believe the figure to be the spirit of a former patient, while others speculate that it is something far more sinister. Paranormal evidence and the whispers of the past. Waverly Hills has been the subject of numerous paranormal investigations, with researchers capturing what they describe as disembodied voices, temperature fluctuations, and shadowy figures on camera. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence is an EVP recording that captured what sounds like a child's voice saying, "Don't go in the basement." Whether the hauntings are the result of residual energy from the hospital's tragic history or something more inexplicable, one thing is certain: Waverly Hills remains a place where the past refuses to be forgotten. Danvers State Hospital. The inspiration for Arkham Asylum. Tucked away in the quiet town of Danvers, Massachusetts, Danvers State Hospital stands as a crumbling relic of 19th-century psychiatric experimentation. Built in 1874, the hospital was designed by architect Frederick Clark Withers in the Gothic Revival style, its imposing stone walls and labyrinthine corridors earning it the nickname, the Castle on the Hill. Danvers State Hospital became infamous for its use of experimental treatments, including insulin shock therapy and lobotomies, many of which left patients permanently scarred or institutionalized for life. The birth of Arkham Asylum. Danvers State Hospital is perhaps best known as the inspiration for Arkham Asylum in the Batman comics and films. The hospital's eerie architecture and dark history made it a natural muse for the fictional asylum, but its real-life legacy is no less unsettling. Patients were subjected to experimental procedures, and the hospital's basement was rumored to house secret experiments conducted on the most disturbed individuals. The Screaming Room and the Shadow Man. One of the most notorious areas of Danvers is the Screaming Room, a small, windowless chamber where patients were subjected to sensory deprivation and other cruel treatments. Visitors to the room report an overwhelming sense of claustrophobia, with some claiming to hear faint screams echoing from the walls. Others describe the presence of a shadow man, a figure that appears in the corner of their vision before vanishing. The apparition of the patient in 319 Room 319 is another hotspot for paranormal activity at Danvers. Witnesses claim to see the apparition of a male patient who died in the room under mysterious circumstances. Some say he was subjected to a botched experiment, while others believe he was driven mad by the treatments he endured. Those who enter Room 319 often report feeling a sudden, unexplained chill, as well as the sensation of being watched by something unseen. The final days of Danvers State Hospital closed its doors in 2007, leaving behind a sprawling complex of decaying buildings and overgrown grounds. Despite its abandonment, the hospital remains a magnet for urban explorers and paranormal investigators, many of whom have captured compelling evidence of the supernatural. Whether the spirits of the afflicted still wander its halls or if the building simply carries the weight of its own history, one thing is certain: Danvers State Hospital is a place where the past lingers, waiting to be uncovered. Athens Lunatic Asylum, the haunting of a scientific experiment in the rolling hills of southeastern Ohio, lies Athens Lunatic Asylum, a hauntingly beautiful institution that opened its doors in 1874. Designed by architect Levi T. Scholes, the asylum was one of the first to adopt the Kirkbride Plan, a therapeutic approach to psychiatric care that emphasized natural light, fresh air, and structured routines. However, the asylum's promise of healing quickly gave way to a reality of overcrowding, abuse, and the horrors of medical experimentation. The medical experiments and the Hall of Shadows. Athens Lunatic Asylum became infamous for its medical experiments, which often involved testing new treatments on patients without consent. Many of these experiments ended in tragedy, leaving the asylum's halls steeped in suffering. The Hall of Shadows, a long corridor in the asylum's basement, is said to be one of the most haunted areas of the complex. Visitors describe a feeling of being watched, as if the spirits of the afflicted are still trapped within the walls. The ghost of the little girl in Redone. Of the most frequently reported apparitions at Athens Lunatic Asylum is the little girl in red, a child who allegedly died while undergoing experimental treatment. Witnesses describe seeing her ghostly figure darting through the halls or standing in the corner of rooms, her eyes wide with fear. Some claim she has even appeared in photographs taken during investigations, her faint outline visible in the background. The Screaming Wall and the Phantom Doctor. The Screaming Wall in the asylum's basement is another focal point of paranormal activity. Visitors have reported hearing faint screams or whispers coming from the wall, as if the voices of the past are still pleading for help. Others have encountered the Phantom Doctor, a shadowy figure dressed in a long coat and carrying a lantern. Some believe he is the spirit of a former physician who conducted the asylum's experiments, forever condemned to wander the halls of his former workplace. The aftermath and the lingering energy. Athens Lunatic Asylum closed in 1993, and its buildings have since been partially repurposed for use by Ohio University. However, the asylum's dark history remains etched into its crumbling walls. Researchers and ghost hunters continue to explore its corridors, documenting unexplained phenomena that defy logical explanation. Whether the spirits of the afflicted still haunt the asylum or if the building simply carries the weight of its own history, one thing is certain. Athens' lunatic asylum is a place where the past refuses to rest. Ridges Asylum. The whispering walls of Athens. In the college town of Athens, Ohio, lies the Ridges, a sprawling asylum complex that opened in 1874. Designed by Thomas Story Kirkbride, the asylum was a pioneer in the moral treatment of the mentally ill, offering patients access to natural light and outdoor spaces. However, the asylum's progressive ideals were overshadowed by its dark later years, when overcrowding and the advent of electroshock therapy turned it into a place of suffering. The legend of the girl in the mirror. The most famous haunting at the Ridges is the girl in the mirror, a spectral figure said to appear in the asylum's basement. According to legend, the girl was a patient who died in the basement after being locked inside. Visitors claim to see her faint reflection in the mirrors, though no one is present. Some have even reported hearing her voice whispering from the walls, pleading for release. The apparitions of the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame, a long corridor lined with portraits of former staff members, is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Visitors have reported seeing the portraits move or change expressions, while others claim to hear faint footsteps echoing through the hallway when the building is empty. Some have even encountered the ghost of Dr. Robert Bottoms, the asylum's superintendent, who is said to appear in the hallway, staring at visitors with an unreadable expression before vanishing into thin air. The shadow people and the cold spots beyond the Hall of Fame. The asylum's basement is a hotbed of unexplained phenomena. Visitors have reported shadow people darting through the corridors, as well as sudden drops in temperature that leave them shivering despite the warmth of the day. Some have even claimed to hear the faint sound of a piano playing, though no instruments remain in the building. The legacy of the Ridges. The Ridges was abandoned in the 1990s, its buildings now repurposed for university use. However, the asylum's dark history continues to draw explorers and paranormal investigators, many of whom have captured compelling evidence of the supernatural. Whether the spirits of the asylum's patients and staff still linger or if the building simply carries the weight of its own history, one thing is certain. The Ridges is a place where the past refuses to fade. Dixmont State Hospital, the haunted ruins of Pennsylvania. Nestled in the remote forests of Mercer County, Pennsylvania, Dixmont State Hospital once served as a beacon of hope for the mentally ill. Opened in 1859, the hospital was designed to offer humane treatment to its patients, but its later years were marked by overcrowding, neglect, and the horrors of electroshock therapy and lobotomies. Today, the hospital's skeletal remains are a magnet for urban explorers and paranormal investigators, drawn to its eerie atmosphere and the legends that surround it. The legend of the Shadow Man. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at Dixmont is the Shadow Man, a tall, dark figure that appears in the asylum's crumbling corridors. Witnesses describe an overwhelming sense of dread when encountering the figure, as if they are being watched by something malevolent. Some believe the Shadow Man is the spirit of a former patient who died in the asylum's final days, while others speculate that he is something far darker. The Screaming Room and the Phantom Footsteps. The asylum's Screaming Room, located in one of the basement's decaying chambers, is another focal point for paranormal activity. Visitors have reported hearing faint screams echoing from the room, though no one is present. Some claim to feel a cold breeze sweep through the space, even on the warmest of days. The asylum's long, empty hallways are also said to be haunted by the sound of phantom footsteps, as if the asylum's former inhabitants are still pacing the halls. The apparition of the nurse in white. One of the most chilling accounts involves the nurse in white, a spectral figure seen wandering the asylum's upper floors. Witnesses describe her as a kind, serene figure who appears to be searching for something, or someone. Some believe she is the spirit of a nurse who worked at the asylum during its darkest days, unable to leave the place where she spent her life. Willard Asylum. The suitcases of the forgotten. In the quiet town of Willard, New York, lies Willard Asylum, a haunting reminder of the lives lost within its walls. Opened in 1869, Willard was designed to provide care for the mentally ill, but over the decades, it became a dumping ground for society's unwanted. The discovery of over 400 abandoned suitcases in the asylum's attic in the 1980s revealed the heartbreaking stories of the patients who lived and died there, many of whom were forgotten by the outside world. The suitcases and the ghostly whispers. The suitcases, filled with personal belongings like letters, photographs, and clothing, have become a symbol of the asylum's haunting legacy. Visitors to Willard report hearing faint whispers in the attic, as if the patients are still speaking to one another. Some have even claimed to hear the sound of footsteps in the attic, though the building has been abandoned since its closure in 1995. The apparitions of the hallway. The asylum's long, narrow hallway is another hot spot for paranormal activity. Visitors describe seeing faint outlines of figures walking the corridor, only to vanish when approached. Some have reported feeling the sensation of someone brushing past them, though no one else is present. The legacy of Willard Asylum today. Willard Asylum's buildings are crumbling, its grounds overgrown and silent. Yet, the asylum continues to draw explorers and investigators, many of whom have captured compelling evidence of the supernatural. Whether the spirits of the forgotten still linger or if the building simply carries the weight of its own history, one thing is certain: Willard Asylum is a place where the past refuses to fade. Athens Lunatic Asylum. Since Athens Lunatic Asylum was already covered earlier, let's replace this with Yankton Asylum in South Dakota, another haunting location, Yankton Asylum. The haunted ruins of South Dakota. Located in Yankton, South Dakota, Yankton Asylum was established in 1881 to provide care for the mentally ill. However, the asylum's history is steeped in tragedy, from overcrowding to the use of experimental treatments. The asylum was abandoned in the 1990s, leaving behind a crumbling complex of buildings that now serves as a playground for urban explorers and paranormal investigators. The phantom child and the cold spots. Visitors to Yankton Asylum report hearing the faint sound of a child's laughter echoing through the empty halls, though no children ever lived there in its final years. Some have even claimed to see the phantom child, a spectral figure of a young boy wandering the asylum's grounds. Others describe sudden drops in temperature and the sensation of being watched, as if the asylum's former inhabitants are still present. The shadow figure and the unseen presence. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the shadow figure, a dark, humanoid silhouette that appears in the asylum's windows and doorways. Witnesses describe an overwhelming sense of unease when encountering the figure, as if the asylum itself is alive and aware of their presence. The legacy of Yankton Asylum. Yankton Asylum remains a popular destination for those seeking the thrill of the unknown. Despite its decay, the asylum's haunting energy persists, drawing explorers and investigators who seek to uncover the truth behind its eerie reputation. Whether the spirits of the past still linger or if the building simply carries the weight of its own history, one thing is certain: Yankton Asylum is a place where the past refuses to rest. Broughton Hospital. The haunted ruins of North Carolina. Perched in the foothills of North Carolina, Broughton Hospital was once a sprawling psychiatric facility that opened in 1880. Known for its brutal treatment of patients, Broughton became a place of suffering, where electroshock therapy and chemical experiments left many patients broken and forgotten. The hospital was partially abandoned in the 1990s, leaving behind a labyrinth of decaying buildings and overgrown grounds. The Screaming Room and the Shadow Figures. One of the most infamous areas of Broughton Hospital is the Screaming Room, where patients were subjected to experimental treatments. Visitors claim to hear faint screams and cries echoing through the room, even when the building is empty. Others report seeing shadow figures darting through the halls, their forms flickering like candlelight before vanishing into the walls. The apparition of the girl in the mirror. The asylum's basement is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Visitors have reported seeing the girl in the mirror, a spectral figure that appears in the asylum's broken mirrors. Some believe she is the spirit of a patient who died in the basement, her reflection trapped within the glass for eternity. The legacy of Broughton Hospital. Broughton Hospital remains a magnet for urban explorers and paranormal investigators, many of whom have captured compelling evidence of the supernatural. Whether the spirits of the afflicted still linger or if the building simply carries the weight of its own history, one thing is certain: Broughton Hospital is a place where the past refuses to fade. Danvers State Hospital. The birthplace of the Shadow Man. Returning to Danvers State Hospital for a deeper dive, its legacy as the birthplace of the Shadow Man phenomenon deserves further exploration. The hospital's history of experimentation and cruelty has left behind a legacy of suffering that continues to haunt its grounds. The Shadow Man's origins. The Shadow Man is said to have first appeared in the asylum's basement, where patients were subjected to some of the most brutal treatments in psychiatric history. Witnesses described the figure as a towering, dark silhouette that seems to move with a purpose, its presence suffocating and oppressive. Some believe it is the spirit of a former patient, while others speculate that it is something far more sinister. The haunted cellars and the phantom voices. The asylum's cellars are another focal point for paranormal activity. Visitors have reported hearing phantom voices and strange laughter echoing through the tunnels, as if the asylum's former inhabitants are still present. Some have even claimed to feel an unseen presence brushing past them in the dark, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread. The final days of Danvers State Hospital closed its doors in 1992, its buildings now repurposed for luxury apartments. However, the asylum's haunting energy persists, drawing explorers and investigators who seek to uncover the truth behind its eerie reputation. Whether the spirits of the afflicted still linger, or if the building simply carries the weight of its own history, one thing is certain: Danvers State Hospital is a place where the past refuses to rest. Final thoughts. The echoes of suffering. As we bring this journey through America's most haunted asylums to a close, one truth becomes undeniable. These locations are far more than crumbling buildings or rusted ruins. They are echoes of human ambition, frozen in time, where the laughter of the past lingers like a ghostly whisper beneath the creaking of forgotten structures. From the Gothic halls of Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum to the chilling silence of Waverly Hills Sanatorium, each site we've explored carries a story steeped in tragedy, mystery, and the unexplainable. What makes these asylums so captivating is their ability to blur the line between reality and the supernatural. They remind us that even the brightest places can cast the darkest shadows. The same corridors that once echoed with the cries of the afflicted now resonate with the whispers of the dead. Whether it's the phantom children of Athens Lunatic Asylum, the Shadow Man of Danvers State Hospital, or the whispering walls of the Ridges, these locations challenge our understanding of what it means to be haunted. Are they truly home to restless spirits, or do they simply carry the weight of history, imprinted onto the very soil by the emotions of those who once walked their halls? Yet, beyond the chills and thrills, these asylums also serve as poignant reminders of the impermanence of human creations. They are testaments to the fleeting nature of dreams, where joy, fear, and ambition collide. To explore them is to walk the fine line between curiosity and reverence, between the desire to uncover the unknown and the responsibility to honor what came before. So, as you step away from this tale, we invite you to share your own stories. Have you ever visited one of these haunted asylums? Have you felt the chill of something unseen or heard the faint echo of laughter in the silence? Drop your experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear from fellow explorers who have felt the pull of the forgotten. And if you enjoyed this journey through the haunted corners of America, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another spine-chilling adventure. Until next time, remember, the past is never truly gone. It lingers in the rusted hinges of forgotten doors, in the flicker of lights that no longer burn, and in the whispers carried by the wind through empty corridors. For those who dare to listen, the stories of these asylums are far from over. Safe travels, and may the echoes of the forgotten never follow you home.